The space station called Nexus Prime stretched across the darkness of space like a metal city floating among the stars. And young Seo Junho had never seen anything so massive in all his 14 years of life. He walked through the crowded corridors with wide eyes, watching aliens of every shape and color pass him by. Some had scales, others had feathers, and a few looked like nothing he could describe with words from Earth languages. His mother, Dr. Seo Yuna, had brought him along on her research expedition to study ancient alien languages, and while she attended boring conferences, Junho was free to explore this incredible place. Stay out of trouble, his mother had warned him that morning, kissing his forehead before she left for her meetings, and do not spend all your credits on strange food again. Junho had smiled and promised to behave, but now his feet carried him toward the lower levels of the station, where the crowds grew thinner and the lights grew dimmer. This was where the interesting things always hid. He found the creature market by accident, following the sounds of roars and strange calls that echoed through rusty corridors. Merchants shouted prices for exotic beasts from distant worlds, and buyers examined creatures in cages and containment fields. Junho wandered past tanks holding swimming serpents, past cages with bird-like creatures that sang in 3 voices at once, past enclosures where furry beasts with too many eyes watched him pass. But it was the back section that caught his attention. A sign hung crooked above a dark doorway that read, "Rejects Final Sale, Nitrogen Monoxide Returns." Curiosity pulled him forward, and he stepped through the doorway into a dim space filled with cages holding creatures that no one wanted. Some were missing limbs, others had scars covering their bodies, and many simply sat in silence with hopeless eyes. And then he saw the dragon. It was enormous, at least 30 feet long, with scales the color of midnight blue and silver streaks running down its sides like frozen lightning. Great wings were folded against its back, and a thick chain wrapped around its neck and connected to the floor. Scars covered its body, old wounds from battles or punishments that Junho did not want to imagine. But what caught his attention was not the dragon's size or its scars. It was the necklace that hung around its throat, a band of ancient metal covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly with blue light. Junho stepped closer, and the dragon lifted its massive head to look at him. Its eyes were gold, deep and intelligent, and in them Junho saw something that made his heart ache, loneliness so profound that it seemed to stretch back through centuries. "Hey there," Junho whispered, and he raised his hand in a small wave. "I am not going to hurt you. I just want to look at your necklace, okay?" The dragon tilted its head, watching him with an intensity that should have frightened him, but somehow did not. "Get away from that thing, boy." Junho spun around to find a merchant hurrying toward him, a fat alien with green skin and 4 arms waving frantically. The creature looked terrified. "That beast is cursed," the merchant hissed, grabbing Junho's arm and pulling him back. 17 owners it has had, and 17 owners are dead. It is mad, violent, and evil to its core. We cannot even find anyone willing to take it for free. Junho looked back at the dragon, which had lowered its head again. Its eyes never left him, and in them he saw not madness or violence, but something that looked almost like hope. "Why does it wear that necklace?" Junho asked, pulling his arm free from the merchant's grip. "Who knows?" The merchant shrugged with all 4 shoulders. "Some ancient decoration. Worthless junk. We tried to remove it once, but the beast went berserk. Nearly killed 6 workers before we got it sedated. That thing is dangerous, boy, and you should stay far away from it." But Junho was not listening anymore. He was watching the symbols on the necklace, and he noticed something strange. When the dragon moved its head, the symbols shifted and rearranged themselves, flowing across the metal like water. They were not just decorations at all. His mother had taught him about languages since he was small enough to sit on her lap. She had shown him how different species communicated, how symbols could carry meaning across thousands of years, and how some languages were designed to change and adapt. These symbols were doing exactly that. They were reacting to movement, trying to form patterns that meant something. "They are words," Junho breathed, his heart pounding with excitement. "What?" The merchant frowned at him. "The symbol is on the necklace." Junho pulled out his personal device and began taking photographs, capturing the glowing symbols from every angle. "They are not decoration. They're some kind of language." The merchant laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the dim space. "You humans are strange creatures, seeing meaning where there is none. That necklace is as worthless as the beast wearing it. Both of them belong in the recycler." Junho ignored him, still taking photographs. The dragon watched him work, staying perfectly still as if it understood what he was doing, as if it had been waiting for someone to notice. When he had captured enough images, Junho lowered his device and looked into the dragon's golden eyes. Something passed between them in that moment, a connection that he could not explain with words or logic. "I am going to help you," Junho promised quietly. "I do not know how yet, but I'm going to figure out what your necklace says." The dragon made a sound low and rumbling, almost like a purr. It was the first noise it had made since Junho arrived, and it sounded almost like gratitude. Junho turned and walked quickly toward the exit, his fingers already moving across his device to send the images to his mother with a single message attached. "Mom, I think this dragon is trying to talk." Behind him, in the darkness of the reject section, the dragon lifted its head and watched the human boy disappear. For the first time in 10,000 years, something flickered in its ancient heart. It felt like hope. DCO Yuna stared at the images on her screen with eyes that grew wider with each passing second, and her hands trembled as she zoomed in on the glowing symbols wrapped around the dragon's throat. "Where did you find this?" she asked her son, her voice barely above a whisper. "In the creature market," Junho replied, standing beside her in the small research quarters they had rented on the station, in the section where they keep the animals nobody wants. "Mom, the merchant said the dragon has killed 17 owners, but I do not think it is evil at all." His mother was not listening. Her fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up ancient databases and comparing the symbols to languages long dead and forgotten. Junho watched her work, recognizing the intense focus that always came over her when she discovered something important. "This is impossible," she finally breathed, leaning back in her chair. "What is it?" "These symbols," his mother pointed at the screen. "They are fragments of old Kethari, a language from a civilization that died out over 10,000 years ago. No one alive today speaks it, and we only know pieces of it from ruins and artifacts." Junho felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered the depth of loneliness he had seen in the dragon's eyes. 10,000 years was a very long time to be alone. "The Kethari," his mother continued, her voice filled with wonder. "They were known as the Beast-Bonded. Historical records say they formed sacred partnerships with creatures called Virathi, which we now know were dragons. When a Kethari bonded with a Virathi, they became partners for life, sharing thoughts and feelings through a special connection." "What happened to them?" Junho asked. His mother's expression grew sad. "We do not know exactly. Their civilization simply vanished one day, and their bonded dragons were left behind. Most people assumed the Virathi died out too, but this," she gestured at the screen, "this suggests at least one survived." Junho thought about the dragon sitting alone in that dark cage, wearing a necklace meant to help it communicate with a partner who had been dead for millennia. No wonder it seemed so lost. "The necklace is not jewelry," his mother explained. "It is a translation matrix. It was designed to help the Virathi speak with its bonded partner, translating thoughts into symbols that both could understand. But without a partner to receive the messages, the dragon has been," she paused, searching for the right words. Screaming into silence, Junho finished quietly. His mother nodded. For 10,000 years, yes. They worked together through the night, cross-referencing ancient texts and piecing together fragments of the lost language. Junho had learned the basics of linguistic research from his mother over the years, and now that knowledge proved valuable as they slowly decoded the symbols. By morning, they had managed to translate a single word, the dragon's name. Ithros, Junho read aloud from the screen. It means last light in Old Keth-Ari. His mother smiled at him with tired but proud eyes. You should go tell him. Junho raced through the station corridors, not caring about the strange looks he received from passing aliens. He burst through the doors of the creature market and ran to the reject section, his heart pounding with excitement. The dragon, Ithros, lifted his head when Junho appeared. Those golden eyes watched him approach with the same guarded hope as before. Junho stopped just outside the containment field and caught his breath. Then he spoke the name clearly and carefully. Ithros. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The dragon's entire body shuddered, and a sound emerged from his throat that Junho had never heard before. A keening wail that held 10,000 years of grief and loneliness and desperate hope. Tears, actual tears, rolled from those golden eyes and dripped onto the metal floor. The symbols on the necklace blazed with sudden light, swirling and reforming in patterns that Junho could not yet read. But he knew what they meant because he could see it in the dragon's eyes. Someone finally understood. Junho pressed his hand against the containment field, and Ithros pressed his massive snout against the other side. They could not touch through the energy barrier, but the connection between them needed no physical contact. I am going to get you out of here, Junho promised. I am going to take you somewhere safe. The merchant appeared behind him, looking shocked and confused by what he was witnessing. What did you do to it? That beast has never reacted like this before. He's not a beast, Junho replied without turning around. His name is Ithros, and he has been alone for 10,000 years. How much do you want for him? The merchant laughed nervously. You want to buy that thing? Boy, I told you, it has killed 17 owners. How much? Something in Junho's voice made the merchant stop laughing. The boy's eyes held a determination that seemed far older than his 14 years. 500 credits, the merchant finally said, clearly expecting the boy to walk away. Junho transferred the funds from his personal account without hesitation. It was everything he had saved over 3 years of birthdays and holidays, and he did not regret a single credit. The merchant stared at his device in disbelief as the payment confirmed. It is yours then, but I accept no responsibility when it kills you too. The containment field lowered, and Ithros stepped forward slowly. His massive body moved with careful grace, as if he were afraid of frightening his new friend away. Junho reached up and touched the dragon's snout. The scales were warm and smooth, and he could feel a gentle vibration running through them like a purr. The necklace glowed again, and this time one word translated clearly through Junho's device. Friend? Junho smiled, and tears of his own began to fall as he wrapped his arms as far as they would go around the dragon's neck. Yes, he whispered. Friend. For the first time in 10,000 years, Ithros was not alone. The cargo bay that Junho and his mother had rented was not beautiful, but it was large enough for Ithros to spread his wings, and that was all that mattered. For 3 weeks, Junho spent every waking hour working on the translation matrix, decoding more and more of the ancient Keth-Ari language. His mother helped when she could, but her conferences demanded her attention. So much of the work fell to Junho alone. He did not mind. Every new word he translated brought him closer to understanding his incredible friend. Ithros was patient and gentle, curling his massive body around Junho while the boy worked and offering rumbling sounds of encouragement. When the translations became difficult. They developed their own simple communication. A nudge of the snout meant yes, a soft snort meant no, and a low purr meant everything is okay. But the real breakthrough came when Junho finally decoded enough of the necklace to understand complex thoughts. "Show me," Junho said one evening, holding up his device to capture the symbols. "Show me what happened to you." Ithros closed his golden eyes, and the necklace blazed with light. Images formed in Junho's mind, memories shared across the bridge of ancient technology. He saw the Cathari as they once were, tall beings with silver skin and gentle eyes, living in harmony with their bonded Virathi. He saw Ithros as a young dragon, playful and curious, bonding with a Cathari partner named Valeth, who loved him like family. He saw centuries of happiness, of flying through colorful skies and sleeping in warm caves, of a partnership built on trust and love. And then he saw the darkness come. Ships appeared in the sky, black vessels carrying soldiers who showed no mercy. The Cathari fell one by one, and their bonded Virathi died trying to protect them. Junho watched through Ithros' memories as Velith was struck down, as the dragon screamed with grief and rage, as everything he loved was destroyed in a single terrible night. The images faded, and Junho found himself crying, his face buried in Ithros' scales. "I am so sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry that happened to you." But there was more to learn. The 17 owners who had died over the centuries had not been killed by Ithros at all. Through the shared memories, Junho saw the truth. Each owner had died from accidents that Ithros had tried to warn them about. A falling beam, a broken railing, a malfunctioning engine. Ithros could sense danger before it happened, but without a way to communicate, he could only watch helplessly as his owners walked into death. You were trying to save them, Junho realized. Every single time, you were trying to save them. Ithros pressed his snout against Junho's chest, and the necklace produced a single translated word. Failed. "No," Junho said firmly. "You did not fail. They just could not understand you, but I can, and I will make sure everyone knows the truth." Word of the human boy and his dragon had spread across Nexus Prime, and not everyone was happy about it. Within days, a summons arrived from the Galactic Council, demanding that Junho and Ithros appear before them. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of species who watched from elevated platforms as Junho walked in with Ithros at his side. His mother stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder in silent support. "This creature is dangerous," declared a tall insectoid representative, pointing at Ithros with a sharp claw. "It must be destroyed for the safety of all." "We demand the right to study it," added another voice, this one from a military commander with cold eyes. Virathi were legendary weapons of war. "We must understand its capabilities." Junho listened as voice after voice called for Ithros to be killed or captured or experimented upon. His hands clenched at his sides, and anger burned in his heart. "May I speak?" he asked when the voices finally quieted. The council leader, an ancient being with too many eyes to count, nodded slowly. Junho stepped forward and activated his device, projecting the translation data onto the main screen for all to see. "This dragon's name is Ithros," he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "He's over 10,000 years old, and he is the last of his kind. He is not a weapon or a specimen or a monster. He is a sentient being who has spent millennia in silence because no one bothered to listen." He showed them the translations, the memories, the proof that Ithros had never killed anyone, but had only tried desperately to save lives he could not protect. The 17 deaths blamed on him were accidents he tried to prevent. Junho continued, but without the ability to communicate. All anyone saw was a dragon near tragedy. He has been punished for crimes he did not commit, imprisoned for trying to help. The council muttered among themselves, but their expressions remained unmoved. Sentience does not equal safety. the council leader finally said. "Regardless of its intelligence, this creature poses a potential threat that we cannot ignore." Junho felt despair rising in his chest, but he pushed it down and found the courage his mother had always taught him to carry. "Then I invoke human sanctuary rights," he declared, his voice ringing through the chamber. "Under Article 7 of the Galactic Accords, any sentient being may claim protection from a member species. Ithros is now under Earth's protection, and any attempt to harm him will be considered an act of aggression against humanity." The chamber exploded in outraged voices, but Junho did not flinch. He stood with his hand on Ithros' neck, facing the most powerful beings in the galaxy without fear. His mother smiled proudly beside him, and Ithros' necklace glowed with a single word that only Junho could see: "Brave." The council leader raised a hand for silence. "Very well, human. We cannot touch the creature while it remains under your protection. But know this, you have made powerful enemies today." Junho looked up at Ithros, then back at the council. "For my friend, I will face any enemy." The transport ship hummed quietly as it carried Junho, his mother, and Ithros through the darkness of deep space toward Earth. It had been a week since the council hearing, and Junho had barely slept. He spent every night curled against Ithros' warm scales, working on translations and learning more about his friend's long and lonely life. The dragon seemed happier now, his golden eyes holding light that had not been there before. And sometimes Junho would catch him making soft sounds that almost sounded like laughter. "Tell me more about the Cathari," Junho asked one night as stars streamed past the windows. Ithros closed his eyes, and memories flowed through the necklace. Images of a peaceful civilization that valued harmony above all else, that believed in protecting the weak and speaking truth to power. The Cathari had been philosophers and artists, healers and teachers, and their bonds with the Virathi had made both species stronger. But then the memories turned dark, and Junho saw something he had not seen before. "Wait," he sat up suddenly. "Go back. Show me the ships that attacked your world." Ithros shared the memory again, and this time Junho looked carefully at the black vessels that had brought death to the Cathari. He saw the symbols on their hulls, the design of their weapons, the shape of their soldiers. His blood ran cold. "Mom!" He called out, and Dr. Seo Yuna rushed into the cargo bay where they had made their home. "Look at this. Do you recognize these ships?" His mother studied the projected images with narrowed eyes, and her face grew pale as understanding dawned. "Those are Vorath vessels," she whispered. "The Vorath Dominion." Junho remembered the council hearing, where several representatives had argued most loudly for Ithros' destruction. Their species had been the Vorath, tall beings with gray skin and calculating eyes who spoke of safety and security, while hiding something sinister beneath their words. "They killed the Cathari," Junho said, his voice shaking with anger. "The Vorath wiped out an entire civilization and have been hunting surviving Virathi ever since." His mother was already moving toward the communication console. "We need to tell someone. If we can prove this genocide, the Vorath will lose their standing on the council." But before she could send a message, the ship shuddered violently, and alarms began to scream. "What is happening?" Junho grabbed onto Ithros for balance as the ship rocked again. Through the windows, he saw them, black ships emerging from the asteroid field that surrounded them, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The Vorath had been waiting for them. "All hands, we are under attack." The captain's voice crackled through the speakers. "Vorath strike fleet has us surrounded. They are boarding." Junho heard explosions from somewhere in the ship, followed by the sound of weapons, fire, and screaming. The Vorath were already inside. "Hide," Ithros rumbled, his first spoken word in the human language, rough and broken but clear enough to understand. "No." Junho shook his head. "I am not leaving you." His mother grabbed him by the shoulders. "Junho, please. You have to. The cargo bay doors exploded inward, and Vara soldiers poured through the smoke. They wore black armor and carried weapons that crackled with energy, and their eyes showed no mercy. A tall Varath commander stepped forward, his gray face twisted in satisfaction. The last Varithi and the human who thinks he can protect it. "This ends now," Ithros roared, a sound that shook the walls and sent some soldiers stumbling backward. He spread his wings as wide as the cargo bay allowed and placed himself between the Varath and Juno. "You cannot stop us," the commander laughed. "We erased the Kethari from existence 10,000 years ago, and we have been hunting their bonded dragons ever since. This one has escaped us for too long. Today, we finish what we started. Why?" Junho shouted from behind Ithros. "Why did you kill them?" The commander's expression darkened, because they were a threat. The bond between Kethari and Varithi made them powerful beyond measure. If they had been allowed to spread, they would have dominated the galaxy. We did what was necessary for our survival. "You committed genocide because you were afraid," Dr. Heseo Yuna said with disgust in her voice. "We ensured our future," the commander corrected, "and now we will ensure it again. Kill them all and leave no witnesses." The soldiers raised their weapons, but Ithros moved first. He breathed fire for the first time in millennia, a stream of blue flame that melted weapons and sent soldiers flying. He fought with the fury of 10,000 years of grief, his claws tearing through armor and his tail sweeping enemies aside. But there were too many. For every soldier Ithros struck down, 3 more took their place. Blast after blast struck his scales, and Junho watched in horror as wounds opened across his friend's body. "Ithros!" Junho screamed as the dragon stumbled. The commander walked through the chaos with calm confidence, stepping over fallen soldiers as if they were nothing. He raised a weapon and aimed it at Ithros' head. 10,000 years of hunting ends here." Junho ran forward without thinking, placing himself between the weapon and the fallen dragon. He spread his arms wide, his small body the only shield his friend had left. "You won him," Junho shouted, his voice strong despite his terror. "You go through me." The commander laughed. "Foolish child. Do you think your life means anything to me?" Junho smiled, and he held up a small device in his trembling hand. "Maybe not, but it might mean something to everyone watching." The commander's laughter died as he looked at the device and realized what it was. A broadcast transmitter, sending everything directly to the galactic network. "I have been recording everything since you boarded," Junho said. "Your confession, your attack, all of it. The whole galaxy is watching right now." The commander's gray face turned almost white with rage and fear. Millions of beings across the galaxy were witnessing the truth of what the Varath had done, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "You stupid child," he hissed, raising his weapon again. "I will kill you anyway." But his hand was shaking now, and Junho knew why. Killing a human child on live broadcast would destroy everything the Varath had built. Their power came from politics and manipulation, and this moment was destroying both. Behind him, Ithros struggled to rise, his golden eyes fixed on Junho with desperate fear. The necklace glowed with words the whole galaxy could now see. "My human, my friend. My family." The Varath commander stood frozen with his weapon aimed at Junho's chest, and the entire galaxy held its breath. Across hundreds of worlds, billions of beings watched the broadcast in shock and horror. They saw the wounded dragon behind the small human boy. They heard the commander's confession of genocide echoing through their homes. And they witnessed the courage of a child who refused to abandon his friend. "Put down your weapon," Junho said, his voice steady even though his heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. "Everyone is watching. You cannot hide what you are anymore." The commander's face twisted with rage. "You think this changes anything?" "We have power, influence, and fleets that can crush entire worlds. No one will challenge us over one dead dragon and one dead human." But even as he spoke, alarms began sounding throughout his own ships. "Commander!" A frantic voice crackled through his communication device. "Multiple fleets entering the system. We are surrounded." Through the cargo bay windows, Junho saw ships appearing from hyperspace. Dozens of them. Then, hundreds. Vessels from species across the galaxy responding to the broadcast. They had seen the truth, and they were coming. Dezio Yuna stepped forward with her own device in hand. While my son was buying time, I was busy too. I sent his translation data to every university, every news network, and every government database in the galaxy. The proof of what you did to the Kethari is now public record. You cannot erase it, you cannot deny it, and you cannot escape it. The commander's weapon hand trembled as the reality of his situation became clear. His soldiers looked at each other with uncertainty, their confidence crumbling as they realized they stood on the wrong side of history. A new voice burst through every speaker on the ship, strong and clear. "This is Admiral Park G1 of the Terran Defense Force. Vorath vessels, you have attacked a human citizen and are holding him hostage. Stand down immediately or face the full force of humanity's fleet." Junho felt tears of relief streaming down his face as he recognized the designation of Earth's warships appearing on sensors. Humanity had come for him. "You have 1 minute to surrender," Admiral Park continued. "And I should warn you, we humans are very protective of our children, and we do not negotiate when they are threatened." The commander looked at his soldiers, at the wounded dragon, at the small boy who had destroyed everything. His weapon lowered slowly, and his shoulders slumped in defeat. "Stand down," he ordered his troops, his voice hollow and broken. The Vara soldiers dropped their weapons, and Junho finally allowed himself to breathe. He turned immediately to Ithros, dropping to his knees beside the wounded dragon. "Ithros, are you okay? Please be okay." The dragon's golden eyes opened, and despite the pain visible in them, there was also joy. His necklace glowed softly with translated words. "You saved me." "We saved each other," Junho replied, pressing his forehead against Ithros' snout. The following days passed in a blur of activity. Medical teams from the human fleet treated Ithros' wounds, while diplomats and lawyers descended on the situation like a swarm. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. And for the first time in thousands of years, the Varath Dominion faced justice for their crimes. Junho sat in the gallery of the council chamber with his mother and a bandaged but recovering Ithros. He watched as evidence was presented, as witnesses testified, and as the full horror of the Kethari genocide was laid bare for all to see. The Varath representatives tried to defend themselves, but the broadcast had destroyed any credibility they might have had. Species who had once feared them now spoke against them, and the votes came swiftly and decisively. The Varath Dominion was stripped of its council membership, ordered to pay reparations, and forbidden from maintaining military forces beyond their home system. Their leaders would face trial for crimes against sentient life. But more importantly for Junho, the council issued a new proclamation. Virathi were officially recognized as protected sentient beings, granted full rights and protections under galactic law. If any others still survived somewhere in the vast universe, they would no longer have to hide. After the session, the council leader approached Junho with what might have been respect in its many eyes. "Young human, your courage has changed the galaxy. We would like to present you with the Galactic Medal of Compassion, the highest honor we can give." Junho looked up at Ithros, then back at the council leader. "I did not do it for a medal. I did it because it was right." "That," the council leader replied, "is exactly why you deserve it." 5 years passed, and Junho was no longer a small boy. At 19, he had grown tall and strong, with eyes that held wisdom beyond his years. He stood on the observation deck of a space station very different from Nexus Prime. This was the Sanctuary, a haven he had helped build for creatures across the galaxy who had been abandoned or forgotten. Ithros soared past the windows, fully healed and magnificent, his scales gleaming in the light of distant stars. He was no longer the last Virathi, for the Sanctuary's broadcasts had reached others who had been hiding for millennia. 3 more dragons had emerged from the shadows, drawn by the hope that Junho and Ithros represented. His mother joined him at the window, her hair now streaked with gray, but her eyes still sharp. The delegation from the Voral Republic is arriving tomorrow. They want to discuss funding for the new Language Preservation Center. Junho nodded. He was now Earth's youngest ambassador for cross-species communication, a position he had earned through years of work translating ancient languages and building bridges between worlds. Ambassador Sale, a voice called from behind him, and he turned to see his assistant approaching. We have received another rescue request. A creature on the outer rim that no one wants. Junho smiled. Some things never changed. Send me the coordinates. Ithros landed on the observation deck, having entered through the massive dragon-sized doors built specifically for him. He pressed his snout against Junho's chest in their familiar greeting. Around his neck, the ancient necklace still glowed, but now it held new symbols alongside the old, words that Junho had added over the years, documenting their journey together. Junho reached up and touched his own necklace, a gift from Ithros made from one of the dragon's own scales. The symbols on it glowed with warmth. My brother. My light. Ready for another adventure? Junho asked. Ithros' necklace flashed with a response. Always. They walked together toward the hangar where their ship waited, ready to answer another call for help. Behind them, the sanctuary buzzed with life and hope, a testament to what one boy and one dragon had accomplished. The galaxy had once called Ithros cursed, dangerous, and worthless. They had said no one wanted him, that he was better off destroyed. They were wrong. All he had ever needed was someone willing to listen. And now, together, Junho and Ithros would make sure no one else had to wait 10,000 years to be heard.